We're Group 9 and this is our Fed Challenge. I'm Nikki.
I'm Kim.
I'm Siu.
I'm Aiden.
I'm Jordan. I'm Kobe.
And next up we will explain the overall economic conditions.
In the 2008 crisis, American economy has been through a rough recovery. After 2017, U.S. economy is booming in a decent sense. Both GDP growth rate and the inflation rate are in Fed's ideal range. Unemployment rate is even below the natural rate. So, district economies are growing in a modest pace during the last months. Lending volume mimicked this behavior as well. To contrast this, we are experiencing a relatively low unemployment, similar to prior of the Great Recession. Secondly, construction of homes and structures are growing at modest to moderate rates as well. So the construction of homes and structures are improving, implying that there is a reason to invest into the economy. Thirdly, energy sectors are modestly improving. So last few years, world energy market is experiencing a huge power shift. Middle East oil oligarchs are losing control over oil price. The American shale oil producers are gaining market power. In August 2016, United States subsidized Saudi Arabia and became the largest oil producer in the world, with producing 12 million barrels every day. In 2017, the new administration promised to lift the regulation and the traditional energy industry. Agricultural conditions are mixed due to the unusual wet weather that has been facing the nation. So agricultural conditions are mixed due to capricious weather fluctuation which might caused by global warming. However, we are experiencing tight labor markets. While we are seeing low unemployment, there are shortage for occupations and is presenting an issue for firms to hire and retain available workers. Meanwhile, labor participation rate remain low. The issue of these tight labor markets will be analyzed later on. Up next, we have Aiden with economic growth and unemployment.
So my name is Aiden. I'm going to be talking to us about economic growth and unemployment. As you can see, growth has remained relatively stable since the Great Recession. As we have up here, we have the real GDP graphed against the nominal GDP, the difference between them being changes in inflation. As we can see, as this gap starts to get a little bigger here at the end, this could be signs of kind of an overheated economy and maybe rapid inflation, as well as the steady growth within, as we see, is consistent with most districts experiencing relative growth right now as well. Continuing on to unemployment, we have the U3 line graphed in blue, as well as the U5 in red, U3 being the official unemployment rate. It's been in a steady decrease since roughly around 2011, which we reached a benchmark here in 2016, falling to 4.7%, the first time since the Great Recession, kind of benchmarking that away and moving forward. Full employment is kind of below 4.5%, which is what we're currently experiencing. So being that below the national unemployment rate could be another worry for an overheated economy, signs that inflation could start to be rapidly rising. This is consistent as well with firms needing employment currently, but wages not moving as well. Next up, we have Jordan to talk to you about inflation.
So I'm doing inflation, and before the 2008 financial crisis, the change in inflation rate in the United States reached almost 3%. This could be a big problem with the housing bubble and the financial crisis. After the 2008 recession, inflation rate landslide only 0.5% than the previous year with respect to a short bounce in 2009, which may be caused with Ben Bernanke's quantitative easing policy, which is called helicopter money. The inflation rate resurged in 2011 and maintained an average of 2% higher than the previous year. Inflation is likely to just be generally higher than it used to be. The inflation rate after 2014 was between a 1.5 increase and a 2.5%. However, there is a deviation between the inflation rate and civilian unemployment rate, which unemployment rate indicates an overheated economy, but the inflation rate does not, which might be partially due to a slump in a stable commodity price, mostly oil, copper, coal, and other things. Next we have Kobe doing the reserve requirements and interest rates.
Hi, I'm Kobe. I'm going to be talking about the reserve requirements. So the Federal Reserve can alter bank reserve requirements as a way to enact monetary policy. So one example of this would be raising reserve requirements for banks would lower the money supply that they're holding, which would limit the amount of investment that they would be able to make. And so if you're limiting the amount of investment that banks are going to be able to make, you're going to reduce growth in the economy. By reducing growth in the economy, you're going to also limit the risk of high inflation. Conversely, if a bank wanted to spur up some growth in an economy, they could lower reserve requirements, which would incentivize banks to invest more. So just really quickly here, we're going to look at just a history of the reserve requirements in the US. You can see that right around 2014, as the economy was looking a lot better after the Great Recession, they started to reduce reserve requirements again, and this could be as a way of stimulating growth. So the Federal Reserve uses the effective federal funds rate to influence interest rates in the economy. So by lowering the federal funds rate, they would be attempting to lower interest rates, which would boost investment and therefore hopefully influence growth in the economy. And so right before the Great Recession, we experienced a 10-year period where we didn't increase the federal funds rate at all. And this was done in hopes of boosting the economy back up from the worst recession we've had in 80 years. So, like I said, we didn't move the federal funds rate up for 10 years, and there was actually a 7-year period where it was at the bottom of 0.5%, which is the lowest the Fed can reduce it. And then you can see right in the end of 2016 was actually the first time that the Fed raised the federal funds rate back up. And this was seen as a sign that we're finally moving past the Great Recession, and we're ready to start peeling back some of the growth that the economy has in hopes that we don't face the risk of inflation. And so I was talking about interest rates, and it's just important to realize that the difference between nominal and real interest rates is going to be inflation. And so you can see just based on this graph that in the last few years or so we've steadied out and we're at more balanced levels in that regard. And up next we're going to have Kim with the responsibilities of the Fed.
So I'm Kim, and I'm going to be talking about the responsibility of the Fed, especially their response to the Great Recession. As we learned in class, one of the principal roles of the Fed is to act as a lender of last resort. The Fed aids in financial activity and stability, where the central banks will provide short-term loans to either the financial institutions or the markets to alleviate financial bank panics. Another role that we learned in class was the Fed also conducts monetary policy, where the Fed will adjust the level of short-term interest rates in order to increase spending, employment, and inflation. So in response to the Great Recession, the Fed conducted monetary policy by decreasing the federal funds rate, which increased inflation. So that's where we have to stimulate the economy by adjusting the federal funds rate, as well as creating two types of non-traditional policies. The Fed created credit easing programs, wanting to ease credit flows and reduce the cost of credit, as well as creating large-scale asset purchase programs. This was wanting to decrease the borrowing rates. So as we have up here, there are the LSAPs and TARP. So at the end of the day, we would say that the Fed used the strict rule policy of adjusting the federal funds rate, but also had discretionary rules by having these two non-traditional policies that they had created in response to the Great Recession as a whole. Up next, we have Nikki describing the potential issues and recommendations.
So this graph shows the stock market volatility from the middle of the recession to the beginning of this year. So as you can see right here, in 2009, the stocks lost almost 40% of their value. And then right after, about the middle of 2010, they spiked back up and have steadily been stabilizing since. And what we're going to focus on the most is the current, which is the beginning of this year to the end of this May. So for S&P 500, this is the beginning of November, right around the election. And as you can see, it spikes in the end of January, which correlates with Trump's inauguration, and then kind of has steadily been falling and stabilizing, but it is between 10 and 15% higher than it was a year ago. So some potential economic issues that we saw were that wages are not increasing, but firms don't have enough workers for all the jobs that they need. And another issue that we forecast is the Trump administration has a lot of proposed bills that will affect the economy. So the new healthcare premiums, we don't know if they will help or hurt the economy, but we do know that the tax cuts are expansionary fiscal policy, so they will increase the debt of the nation a lot. As far as the Paris Accord goes, it will boost the oil and coal industries in the short term, but in the long term, gives up America's chance to capitalize financially on the shift to renewable resources. So our recommendations as the Fed would be to do contractionary monetary policy. So we would do this by increasing the Fed funds rate to combat the rising inflation that we see as an issue moving forward, and also decrease the money supply, so we would do this by selling bonds.
Okay, so on behalf of Group 9, we just wanted to say thank you for listening to our presentation, and we hope you found our economic ideas convincing. Thanks, guys.
Thanks.
Thank you.